Hello, everybody. I'm Dallin Arvey.
And I'm Joel Banyan.
We're the hosts of the new podcast, Seeking Business. The new podcast focusing on local businessmen and entrepreneurs, their keys to success, and how to help others get started with their own business and entrepreneurship ventures.
This week we interviewed Ryan Quilter, who owns Core Personal Fitness in Farr West. Dallin, what were some of your key takeaways from this podcast?
My favorite thing I learned from Ryan was his unique goal-setting process, just to show people how to see their goals in perspective and what it really takes to achieve them.
Awesome. I think my most valuable thing I took away was just Ryan's drive and how he doesn't let anybody get in his way. And in my opinion, is successful because he can't define his own success.
Yeah, I thought that was really impressive from him. For this podcast, we'd like to say that we were recording this in Ryan's new offices, still under construction. We apologize if there's any glitchiness or
sound disruptions
in the podcast. We also apologize that another one of the hosts, Jace Hansen, was not able to make it this week, and there will be other weeks that he will be joining us to be able to bring his insights into this podcast as well.
It will always be at least two, if not all three of us. So, well, without saying too much more, we're going to go ahead and get straight into the interview. So we hope you guys like this podcast. Please share it with your friends and subscribe to everything. And thanks again, guys. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Seeking Business podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Dallin.
And we are here with Ryan Quilter, who is the owner of Core Personal Fitness. Their mission statement, and we'll just start with that, is to offer products, services that inspire others to be their best selves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So, Ryan, would you mind elaborating on what that mission statement means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for giving me the chance to be here with you guys.
Of course.
And talk about the things that I'm passionate about. So, it is our belief at Core Personal Fitness that if any one of those four things, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, are out of balance, you're not going to be your best self. You can see people that are physically in very good shape, but mentally, emotionally are really struggling, and they're not the best selves that they could be.
Right.
And then vice versa, there's people that mentally and emotionally have it figured out, but maybe spiritually and physically they don't, and so they're not their best selves. And they're all wound up and interweaved into one big ball, and so they all affect each other. You can't be your best self if any one of those areas is lacking. And so it's bringing all four of those together and working on all four of them. And it's typically not how most people think.
Together.
Yeah, together.
Right.
You wouldn't think you would work on them together. And even like spiritually, a lot of people immediately think religion. Spirituality has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with connection. When you're connected to others and to people around you and to believing that you're serving a higher purpose than just yourself, that's where spiritually you can really excel. So anyways, so that's kind of what our mission statement revolves around.
So when you developed that mission statement, did you do so before you decided you wanted to do this personal training, or is it something that happened as you were going about starting your business?
It was something that happened as I went about doing my business. You get into personal training. I did just to help people physically. But the more that I was in it, I realized that there was so much more to it than just physical wellness. There was the mental side of it, the emotional side of it, and then recently I've noticed the spiritual side of it, and that's where I came up with that mission statement. And that mission statement has actually changed and evolved, and I came up with that one probably just this year in 2018. I just came up with it, and so.
And how many years have you been doing this?
I've been training for 5.5 years, and then I've had Core Personal Fitness for 3.5.
Awesome.
That's great. I love that when we asked you what is your mission statement, you were able to just recite it off the top of your head. That it's something that clearly means a lot to you, that you've spent a lot of time thinking about what is my business going to mean, what am I going to add value to the world with, and you have it in just such a clear, concise statement. I love that.
And that's kind of the purpose of this podcast. We want to get to know business people, entrepreneurs who have a clear goals and who we see to be successful no matter how big or small their business is. So
awesome.
So we have a list of questions that we sent you earlier so you could kind of prepare. We wanted to start going through those, see how many we can hit off, and learn something together. So the first one that I sent you, something that it can be from any period of time, just asking, what is one of your fondest memories of success? Could be a time in elementary school. It could be something very recent. Just one of your best times you think like, oh yeah, I've done it. And you just had that overflowing feeling of Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I read that question, that's probably the toughest one out of all of them that I read, because I've never
starting with the heavy hitters.
Yeah, I've never thought of myself as successful, and I think once you believe, for me, once you reach the summit, like, you can't get any further, and so I always believe that I can get better and better.
Of course.
And so I've seen little pieces of success that I've had, but I don't know if I'll ever say that I'm successful, just because that has such a loaded word, because everyone has a different definition of success. And so for me, as I thought about that, a big one is probably 4 or 5 years ago, as I saw my own personal transformation, when I really started to see my potential and really push myself outside my comfort zone, particularly in school. I always believed that I was dumb, that I had no value. I just really struggled with self-esteem. And so I started getting connected with books and ideas and people that helped me break that mold. And within a year, turned into a completely different person. And that was where I was like, oh my gosh, I realized I can create the future that I want. And so that was one. And then as far as on a business level, probably just, and it's a small one, but as a personal trainer, when you have no white space on your calendar, when I was able to fill in my calendar completely, where I looked around and most trainers are struggling to fill in their calendar, and mine was just completely booked from morning till night. That gave me definitely a feeling of success and satisfaction that, okay, what I'm doing is actually making a difference, and people are sending their friends and family to me to work with me.
That's awesome. And I think how you said that you haven't reached that peak success and you don't know that you ever will is an important thing for people, because you continue to have that drive all the time. One thing that I've tried to do in my own careers is never sit back and say I'm good and just be stagnant in a position. And so I think that's awesome. So that leads into my first question, which is, how long did it take you from having the idea of your own business to you acting on it? And obviously you did some personal training before you started Core Fitness, but what set off, when did you decide I want to do this on my own?
It was an evolution, because I had thought about owning my own gym since I was in junior high.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd always thought about it, but didn't really think that I could make a good living doing it. I needed to follow the regular course that you follow of getting a degree, getting a job, and then the gym was just something that would never become a reality. And then, like I said, the more that I learned about myself and my potential and the future that I could create, I started to see that. So I first started to see it as I was working at another gym, and I saw how the owner ran his business, and I believed that I could improve upon what he was doing, and I wanted to run mine better than that. And so I always kind of had it milling around in the back of my head. And then I did end up getting my degree. I got my degree, and it was time to decide, okay, am I going to stay here at this job, get a different job, or am I going to just go for it and open up my own gym? And I believe that I could be successful opening my own gym. So it was something that, since junior high had been in the back of my head, but like legitimately thinking about opening it, it was probably close to a year thinking, I'm going to do this. And then once I graduated with my degree 2 months later, I decided to leave that gym and open up my own.
Awesome. What was your degree in?
Finance.
Oh, really? Yeah. So has that helped you in this?
Oh, absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. I originally was going to go into physical therapy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was working on athletic training. For different reasons, I decided to switch over to business. And then when I was in business school, I got into personal training, and then I graduated with a degree in business. And so the athletic training background, awesome. The stars align. Like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And that was exactly what happened there. And so having the athletic training background and the finance background has definitely helped in running the business.
Sweet.
I liked what you said, that you were able to look at how someone else was operating something, and you were thinking, I can really add value to this process. I can make this better than it currently is. And I think that's a common denominator against a lot of entrepreneurs. They look at something and think just constantly, how can this be better? Mm-hmm. And they think of good ideas on how to improve stuff. I think that's a really common theme among a lot of people that are starting their own businesses today.
Absolutely.
So along the lines with starting your own business, I had the question to ask, what were some of the difficulties or roadblocks that were really hard to overcome in starting your own business particularly? Because that's something that scares a lot of people out of it. They know it's hard. And so
instead
of failing, they just don't do it at all.
Right. And obviously, like you said, you're worried about being able to make money in general with your own gym. So
yeah. Yep. And yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. A lot of people are scared. Number one is fear. Like, and you hear people talk about that, and it's so cliche, but it truly is. It's fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of what people are going to think if I fail, fear of like, well, who am I to run this business? And that was a big part of it. It was huge. Just like, yeah, who am I to think that I could run a successful business on my own? Who am I to take out these loans to get this gym up and started and think I'm going to be able to pay it back and actually be able to make a living doing this? So yeah, number one was fear, and just pushing that aside and just taking action and moving forward. So as far as a psychological standpoint, yeah, fear was hands down the biggest. And then the second is just so many unknowns.
Yeah.
When you're just kind of stepping out into the big deep blue is what it feels like, and you have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of different paths you could take, a lot of different ways you can structure your business. And so it was just getting down to the nitty gritty, because one of my beliefs is that successful people sweat the small stuff. Like, they worry about the small stuff. And when you're running a business, there's a lot of small stuff that you can really worry about. And so it was, for me, it was, it's called paralysis by analysis. Overthinking, overlooking, worrying about what other people are going to do or think, or how are they going to react. And so, yeah, but definitely fear. Fear was the biggest one. Once I got past that, I feel like you can really do anything. Yeah, you can do anything. But yeah, it's that fear it's pretty paralyzing.
Almost a "you are your own worst enemy" type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You used a word that I love in that response, which is action. Dallin can attest to it, but anytime we have a personal project that we're working on, I always say we need to develop an action plan, and then we list out what are the first steps, how do we go about this? And that kind of leads into my next question, which is, what strategy did you use to get started, overcome that fear, and what were your first steps?
As far as starting the business, without going into great detail, I got painted into a corner where it was do or die.
Right.
I had to do it. It got to the point where I had to leave that previous gym because of disagreements with the previous owner, and I couldn't work there anymore. And so it was either I've got to open up my gym and do this, or now that I have my degree, I go get a job crunching numbers with my finance degree. And so it was just one of those where I just had to do it. And it was amazing for how long I thought about doing it. Once you're pushed up against a wall, it's like, hey, now you have to decide. It's kind of a do or die. Then I was able to do it. You start making phone calls, you start making little steps. And the amazing thing is, you don't have to have the whole puzzle put together.
Right.
Like, you just need to see where a couple of pieces will go, and you run with that. And then it opens up a couple doors, and you put a couple more together and a couple more together. I just found a place where I could rent a space. I found some equipment. I let my clients know, hey, I'm moving. If you want to come with me, I'd love for you to come. And it was just one thing after the other. I was just kind of almost felt like grasping at straws to get it put together, but that's what needed to happen. And it was worrying about all those little details that was really holding me back. And it was just needing to, take that action.
To just go. That's awesome.
I love that. Yep.
That's awesome that it worked out for you. I loved that imagery that you don't have to have all the pieces of a puzzle, because I've done puzzles before, like most people, and every single time you find the corners, and then you work from the corners to build the edges. And once you have the frame, essentially that's when I imagined, like, you've started your business when you have the frame. And now you're working from the outside inward to complete the puzzle. I love that imagery. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you don't want to jump into it. I don't want to give the wrong impression. You should jump into it guns blazing. Let's just throw this together as we can. But you won't. Typically, you don't have a complete picture of how it's going to pan out. Like you just don't. But it's like, this is what I do know, and this is what I can do with this, and how can I minimize my risk with this knowledge? Move forward with that. New knowledge or new intelligence or whatever research will unfold, and then you can add more, and you add more, and you add more. But yeah, you gather as much information as you can, even if it's not everything you feel you need.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we're trying to build something bigger than ourselves. We're trying to add value to the world with this podcast by interviewing successful people like yourself. So when we came up with this idea, something we wanted to do, we went to Facebook and we posted on several entrepreneur-based Facebook groups announcing that we're going to be doing this podcast. We want to be asking them, we asked the people in the group, what kind of things you want to see out of podcasts like this. And one of the answers was that we want to learn about marketing techniques, just how to grow your business, how to get bigger. And I thought of one way to ask this is, how have you used social networking, social marketing to grow your business and to become more successful? What kind of outreach programs have you used to find new customers, and how have they worked?
So my business I've been very fortunate in that a lot of it has been word of mouth. And so I've set up Instagram and Facebook and Google and done my SEO. And I mean, I'll pick up kind of a little bit of trickling of traffic that comes in, and I'll pick up new clients here and there from those things. But for me, it's been, if I can solve my current customers' problems, if I can solve their problems for them and show them that I care, they like to talk about that. And probably 95% of my business is word of mouth. It's like, hey,
wow,
I got your name and number from so-and-so. They said great things. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to work with your company. So for me in particular, that's what it's been. It obviously limits our outreach because I'm not reaching people in Japan, obviously, which would be very tough. But for the nature of my work, it's worked very well. And especially when somebody sees a physical change or they notice a mental or emotional change, like, oh my gosh, you're so much happier and you look great, like what's going on? And so my clients, it's very nice, and I'm very fortunate that they're walking billboards for me.
Right.
Like, people like to talk about this industry and what they're doing. And so I'm very fortunate in that way. I've done different business networking groups. There's one it's a worldwide group. It's called BNI. Where you have professionals from different industries that meet together, and you have your group is what's called a chapter, and there's only one professional from each industry that can be in that chapter or in that group. So I represent the health and fitness industry.
That's awesome.
So nobody in health and fitness can be in that chapter. So then there's a chiropractor in there, and so he's referring clients to me, I refer clients to him, and that's been a huge help. And that's one that I would definitely encourage people to look into. It's a great program where, you get together and you network with other people who, and their whole kind of mantra is givers gain. Like the more you give, the more you gain. And so the more you help other businesses, the more it's going to help you. So so for actual social networking, BNI is probably the biggest one I've done.
Wow, that sounds really cool. And I loved that you were saying before that you've been able to fill your calendar, that there's no more white spaces. And just that is all through word of mouth. That really speaks to the power of how people interacting with one another can really spread a word that social media sometimes really just can't. I'm writing an essay right now on social media and how it helps and adds value to the world. And what I've noticed when it comes to businesses is that if a person is building their own personal brand, that's way more successful than someone building a business brand. A business brand is often overlooked, and people are saying like, oh, they're trying to just sell to me. But if you're trying to build your personal brand saying you can come to me for help, that adds so much more value to what you're trying to give.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this business, I mean, social media has been used in the sense that if someone has a great before and after picture, they've been really impressed by this experience they've had, and they post about it on social media. I mean,
and then refer you.
Yeah, so and then refer.
Still word of mouth.
Awesome. Exactly. But it is using social media to get people to me, but it's much more powerful coming from somebody else than it is from me.
Personal brands over your business brand.
Awesome. Okay, well, my next question is, did you ever have people around you tell you that you would fail, and how did that motivate you to keep going? I asked that question before I had the job that I do now. I just worked in a machine shop, and I decided I was going to do this 6-week coding boot camp that I did, and everybody around me thought that was a bad idea, that I was throwing my money away and taking too big of a risk, and it's paid out awesomely for me. And that kind of helped to push me to keep going. And so I just wanted to know your point of view on that.
I've been very fortunate. I have great family and friends who are incredibly supportive and get really excited over any and every idea I've ever had.
Right.
I have had those people that, very blatantly told me that they think I'll fail. They want to see me fail. They hope I go out of business. And for different reasons, I mean, are they your competitors? Yeah, competitors.
I was like the only people I could imagine having the audacity to say that.
So it's been competitors that weren't happy with what I was doing, which is totally fine. And so for me, I believe it can make you bitter or it can make you better. And I just had to decide that I was going to use it to fuel my fire. Just kind of like with stress. If you're stressed out, you can have it pull you down, or you can use that as fuel to push you harder to make sure you put yourself in a better position. And this was the exact same. I went through, because it was through text messages and social media, I was getting stuff like that. So I went through and I screenshotted all of them and kept them. And I would use it if I was ever feeling down, because I'm not going to let them be right. And I just let it fuel my fire. And now I don't even think about that. I think that was good to get me going and help me get to the point where I'm at. But now it's like, I don't have the mental space to
even care.
Exactly. To care. And if something came up like that again, I'm sure it'd get under my skin and I'd probably kind of use it again to fire me up. But it's something that's long gone that I've not had to use to fire me up. Yeah, I just use it like fuel.
Yeah. I like, and there's been a few times we've kind of highlighted this, is sometimes when we're getting started, we need just boosts from our environment, from stress, from somebody telling us we're not going to do it correctly or whatever. And I think that's awesome, but I also think that it's great that you said that we don't need to dwell on it, and that afterwards we can just, once we've got the ball rolling, it's rolling. So.
Yep, exactly.
You kind of get into a snowball effect, and there's just no stopping you at a certain breaking point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So the next question I have to ask is kind of a personal one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of getting really big into studying like goal setting and how goal setting works and how the progression to goal achieving is made. And so as a personal trainer, you definitely set goals with each of your clients. I would assume it'd be weight goals or a certain amount of what they want to bench press or something similar to that. Well, so my question is, what is your method to goal achievement? Because so many people set goals. I mean, you must be getting excited because New Year's is coming around in about a month and a half.
Yep.
And that's got to be a big time for any gym or personal trainer. Mm-hmm. But so many of those New Year's resolutions go unfulfilled. So what do you do to help people break a barrier that will help them achieve their goals rather than set it and it just falls away?
Okay. It's a great question. It's a multi-layered thing, and everybody's different. I always tell people we're not like cars. We're like, a car has a problem or it's not doing something. Oh, you just got to run a diagnostic test and do this, this, and this. Where humans are much more complicated than that. So everybody's a little bit different, but I was just studying some research that, and I wish I could remember the exact percentages, but they looked at the rate of success between one group of people that just said their goal, like my goal is to lose X amount of pounds or to accomplish such a goal. The next people said what their goal was and wrote it down. And then the next group of people said what their goal was, wrote it down, and then wrote down an action plan. This is how I'm going to accomplish it. The first group, it was, I think, less than 10%. The people that just said it, less than 10% accomplished it. The middle group that said it and wrote it down, I think it was 40%. And the last group, it was in the 90%. So I started to use that. So they use what's called a what, when, and where. So this is what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, where I'm going to do it, and then follow that up with what's called an if-then statement. So for example, somebody wants to make sure they go to the gym 5 times a week. What? I'm going to go to the gym. When? At 6:30 in the morning. Where? At some gym that's close to my home. But then you follow that up with an if-then statement, meaning if I don't, then this is what I'm going to do. So you have a contingency plan, a plan B. I've started using that with myself and with my clients recently, and it is amazing how much that helps, because you're already giving your subconscious its path to success. So your consciousness isn't thinking about it and trying to process it. It's already there. So number one is that. Have a plan, say it, write it down, but then have a plan. This is what, when, and where. And if I don't, for whatever reason, then this is how I'm going to make sure that I catch up and get to where I want to be. The second thing is finding out what I call your why. You need to know why you're doing something. The entire world, the entire nation wants to be fit, especially in my industry. Everyone wants to be fit, lose body fat. Why in the heck don't they? It's because they have what's called a competing intention. They have an intention that's pulling them away from that, whether it's laziness, procrastination, an addiction to sweets, whatever it is. I know
those well.
Yes. And so it's finding out why. Okay, why do I really want to lose this body fat? And I'll ask people that. I'll say, well, why do you want to lose the body fat? Well, because I'm going to feel better. And what happened just immediately with that is we went from a superficial visual, I want to lose body fat, to an internal, I want to feel better.
Right.
And then you continue to ask, well, why do you want to feel better? Why is that important to you? Well, because I'm going to have more self-confidence. And why is that important to you? You start to drill down, and you can do this with a friend or you can do it on your own. But when you find what your why is, you take it from an external, superficial thing to an internal, emotionally driven, passionate reason. So then come New Year's and everyone's jumping on board because they want to lose body fat. The reason, or the people that really find out the reason why they're doing that, are much more likely to stick with it, because we're all going to lose momentum. We're all going to lose motivation. We're all going to hit roadblocks. So when somebody understands why, if they can say, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to be a good example for my kids, and I want them to see their father that's accomplishing his goals and setting that example because I want my kids to do that, all of a sudden it becomes so much more powerful than, oh, I just want to lose body fat. Yeah. So those are kind of the two things. I mean, set up an action plan, write it down, and then find out your why, whether it's business, fitness, relationships, whatever it is. When I hit burnout with my business, like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I just drill down, okay, why am I doing this? And it always comes back to my mission statement. Like, I believe that's my purpose in life, is to help people become their best selves. And that gets me up at 4 a.m. and keeps me working and keeps me going.
Right.
That's awesome. Because I have a fitness goal, and I don't think I've applied any of those words to it. I have a goal to be able to bench press 185 pounds at 10 repetitions. You can look at me and you know that I don't do that. I tested my bench max yesterday at the gym and I hit 170. I'm far away. So if you were to help me make that goal more of, I believe it was why, when, how, and where.
What, when, where. Yeah.
What, when, where, and then why. What are some suggestions that you would give to how I can bench 185 at 10 repetitions?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, we could start with why. It's like, well, why? So like if I were to ask you, why do you want to be able to bench 185 pounds 10 times? What would you say?
Well, you see, I'm single, and I would like to not be single.
Okay, so you're looking to hook up. You know that chicks dig the chest area. So yeah, so you want to hook up. Well, why is that important? Like, why do you not want to be single anymore?
I'm so lonely.
See, and we could keep drilling that down. So when you're losing motivation to go to the gym, it's not about benching 185 pounds. You want connection. You want to be with somebody. You want to be with someone who loves your rockin' bod and loves you for so much more than that. And so then in the mornings, it's like, I do not want to go, or I'm so sick and tired of following my meal plan. It's not about benching 185. It's about this more deep, emotional, passionate reason. So I'd encourage you to really sit down and think about that and continue to ask yourself, okay, well, why is it important that I'm not lonely? And why is that? And you just keep going until you find what clicks here. It's like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm doing this. So having that and then feeding that. It's like a bonfire. When you first figure it out, it's like, oh my gosh, that's it. And it's this big, bright, burning, motivational thing. But if we ignore it, very soon
it starts to dwindle.
Yep, it'll dwindle. It'll simmer down. So we have to continue to feed it. So revisit it every single day. So feed it, feed it, feed it. So that would be the first thing, is find your why. And then, set up a plan of attack. It's okay, well, what am I going to do? When am I going to be at the gym? How am I going to make sure I'm improving in my progress? Do I have the knowledge on my own? Do I need to hire a coach? What is it that I need to do? Do I need to be supplementing? What are the different things? Is there a knowledge gap that I need? And we can do this with any goal. Right. Is there a knowledge gap that I have? And so you just set up, okay, this is what, when, and where. And then if I don't accomplish it by this date, or if I miss a gym session, then this is what I'm going to do to make up my lost progress.
Awesome.
Nice. I'm definitely going to have to try and implement some of these things.
Awesome.
I'm going to listen to this a few times just to make sure I get it right.
So Ryan actually is my personal trainer. And during our last session, you mentioned something to me and my wife. I can't remember the exact words that you used. There was the differences in goals. The end objective and then the ones in between. Do you remember what those were called? Yeah, so there's objective-oriented goals and task-oriented goals. Awesome. And so I just wanted to highlight that because that really stuck with me. And it kind of goes along with an action plan and an end base, but I think that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so an objective goal, so it's like benching 185 pounds 10 times. That's your objective. As much as you focus on that and want it, it's not going to happen unless you're accomplishing what we call your task-oriented goals. It's like if you came in and sat down with me, it's like, hey, that's our objective. That's great. Let's put that down. Let's get all fired up about it. But now, what are the tasks
that we need to accomplish to make sure that's going to happen. You need to be eating so many grams of protein. You need to get so much sleep. You need to eat in a certain way, take whatever supplements, whatever it is we need to do. Once you hit those task-oriented goals, 99% of the time, you're going to hit your objective. Right. People obsess over their objective goal without saying, okay, well, what do I actually need to do? What are the tasks that are in place to make sure that I hit that? I always compare this to sports teams. Every sports team wants to win the championship, and that's their objective. The ones that actually win it are the ones that hit their tasks, which are, let's go all out in every practice. Let's condition this way. Let's sleep. Let's eat. Let's all these different things. When they accomplish their tasks, they're going to, like I said, 99% of the time hit their objective as well.
Awesome.
It's your turn, buddy.
Well, so my next question was, what level of success are you trying to achieve? We kind of already talked about that. You don't know when you're going to be done. Mm-hmm. But do you have further goals in the future to continue your business and keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's financial goals, because if the business doesn't make me money, it won't grow. And if the business doesn't grow or make me money, then, what's the point of having it? And I believe money is something that can be used to our advantage. You can leverage it. And if I truly believe it's my purpose and mission in life to help people, the more money I have,
the more ability you have.
Yeah, exactly. The greater ability I have. I mean, you look at people like Tony Robbins, dude flies around in his private jets and everyone thinks he's filthy rich. And yeah, he is. He's filthy rich, but he also affects millions upon millions of people. And if he didn't have that money, there's a good chance he wouldn't be affecting that many people. Definitely. So I view, financially, do I have goals? I mean, I think the first goal of any business is to hit 6 figures. That's always something that's like super encouraging, to hit 6 figures. And we were within a few thousand of hitting it last year. And so we'll hit it this year. And so you hit 6 figures and it's like, I want 7 figures and then I want 8 figures. And so there's those goals out there where, I would definitely like to be an 8-figure business, which is $10 million a year. And that's gross. And then just kind of see what you come away with net. And then once we hit that, once again, it's not the summit. Like I never want to be satisfied. Always be happy, but never satisfied, because I'll continue to push myself. And then, just the ability to reach and influence and affect and help as many people as possible. And I've never put a number on it, but I want to have the biggest reach that I possibly can to the world. So
with reaching those dollar amounts, I mean, are those object goals, and do you have task-oriented goals around those?
That's a great question. Yeah, so that is our objective goals, and we've been hiring more people now. We actually have a team, which has been so good to have, because it frees up some of my mental space to work on other things. And so that's what we actually just had a meeting today. And it's like, okay, because we have all these ideas of things we can do. It's like, where are our resources, mental effort, money, where are they best used, where we can have the biggest impact? Mm-hmm. And so like tomorrow we got invited to a wellness fair at a local company. So we're going to go to their wellness fair, and we have goals of things that we're going to accomplish there. This is our goal, is for one of our new trainers to really get comfortable introducing herself, selling herself, and just get as many clients as she can coming in. And so we do have those tasks lined up, and then coming into New Year, the different things that we want to start to offer to help us reach those financial goals.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you're clearly succeeding in getting your tasks and your goals. We're in your new building right now. You're just expanding, getting a new building, and there's some construction underneath us right now.
That's that you guys are hearing?
Which is you expanding and working on those tasks. So you're clearly practicing what you preach, and we can see that, and the listeners can hear that.
Well, and that's definitely one of the reasons that I wanted to interview you, was just to go on with you, and knowing that you started pretty much from scratch with just a few clients, and now you have your own space. And I think that's awesome, especially before you just had a little tiny room.
And your own employees. Yeah. And having employees, I think, can make a huge difference in life, because there's no one you're going to add more value to than the people that, you affect so much of their life, I believe.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
So in that last question, we talked a lot about finances. You talked about Tony Robbins, how he's able to affect so many people. So I have kind of like an off-themed question that's different from what we were talking about before. So my question is, if you were to win the lottery, the previous lottery was $1.6 billion, big number. What would you do with that money? How would you be able to affect the world with such a large amount? What would you do with it?
I mean, the first thing, as much as I want to say I'd run all over the world influencing people for the better, I will absolutely do that. But I know that I'd have my own selfish endeavors to,
Of course.
yes,
To win.
to travel the world. So a big one is travel. I've traveled internationally quite a few times, and I have never traveled internationally without being affected, without having my life changed in some way. I believe the world is a book, and it is amazing. Just the perspective that it can give you. And when like last year, I traveled to South America, and the perspective that gave me. One, when I'm down there in this completely impoverished country, third world country, and I realize how much opportunity we have here in the United States. One, it motivated me to drive harder. Two, it kind of pulls you out of, you get so caught up in your own little world here. I'm here in Farr West, Utah, running a gym. When I'm down in this city of, I think there's 13 million people in Lima, Peru, it's like, oh my gosh, I really don't have that big of problems up there that I was thinking about. So it kind of pulls you away and gives you a really good perspective. And that's something that I would like to always have, and I want my family and the people around me to have. So yes, I would definitely use it to travel. And then next, I would use it to invest in my company. Like, money it's a big barrier when we want to create an app or software to help people with their meal plans, or to help people with their meditation, or to help people with their sleep. It's like you're looking at 6 figures just to create an app. And it's like, oh my gosh, how nice would it be just to be able to do that? And so, yeah, I think we're still doing that. We're helping people in those areas just as we are right now. But once again, we'd have a bigger reach if we were able to do that. So I think it would make a huge investment in technology. In the fitness industry, it's like the biggest thing that people struggle with is like, I don't know what to eat. Like, I just want good meal ideas. I want an easy meal plan. I want this, I want that. And to create a software and technology that we can send out to anybody in the world, it can help them with that. And then obviously integrate that with the emotional, mental, and spiritual, and just create this platform where people can have all of those, whether they're sitting in my office or they're sitting halfway across the world.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I find that's interesting about you traveled to South America, but didn't you do that by yourself? You just went? Or is this a different trip that I'm thinking of?
To South America, I was going to go by myself. I did have some friends that jumped on. So I went with a few other friends to South America. But earlier this year, I went to Europe. To Europe, I went by myself to Europe.
And was there a reason for that? You just decided, I'm just going to go? Or
yeah, I realized a lot of people talk about doing things, but very few people actually do them. And travel, everybody wants to travel. Everybody's excited to travel. How many people actually travel?
Right.
Very few. And
I think I remember reading once that like 60% of Americans will die without ever leaving the country.
Yeah, I would totally believe it. But I don't know what the percentage is, but my guess is it's 90% plus that say they want to leave the country, but they never do it. And it's that action thing. It's just doing it. And so part of it's because, one, I want to do it. And then two, when you're traveling by yourself across the world, I feel like you get to know yourself better, and you're by yourself a lot. And I used to be super paranoid about being alone. And it's one of those just kind of self-development things. I like to force myself into uncomfortable positions.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm 100% comfortable traveling across the world. Just as if I were to travel to the next state, traveling to a country over in Europe, doesn't bother me in the least bit.
That's awesome. And I think that shows who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur. Okay, so we just have one last question to wrap things up. What is a one sentence phrase that you would use for advice to someone who is planning to start their own business?
I believe this is huge. I call it your mantra. You need to have your mantra. Every entrepreneur will lose steam. They'll lose motivation. They'll get depressed. They'll get discouraged. And having that mantra that just pulls you up out, and it can change all the time. But two of my favorites are, you can have excuses or results, not both. So that's one of my favorites. You can have excuses, and everyone makes excuses. Oh, I can't travel, or I can't start this business, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the time, or my spouse won't let me.
I also bet you hear lots of those as a personal trainer.
Yes, I do. And that's what
particularly for myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that quote up behind me so I just point to it when Joe gives me his excuses. But yeah, you can have excuses or results, not both. People will give me excuses all day long, and I'm like, that's great. But are those going to change? Like, it's up to you. You can have your excuses or you can have results, not both. And in business, when crap hits the fan, things aren't going good, you can blame it on anybody and everybody, or you just put it squarely on your shoulders and say, okay, I'm 100% responsible for this. and I'm going to have results. I'm not going to use those excuses. I don't care if it was a business partner screwing you over, or a falling out, or the economy, whatever it is. Like, just put it on your shoulders. Like,
make it work.
Make it work. And I tell that to myself just as much as I do anybody else, because I will find excuses in my own head of why I'm not reaching the level of success I should. And I need to remind myself I can have excuses or results, not both. So that's the first one that I would highly recommend, because it's your brain's job is to keep you comfortable. And when things go bad, its job is to find reasons why it's not your fault, because it's uncomfortable to think that it's not our fault, or that it is our fault. And so just keep that in your mind. And then another one, and this is just kind of a snippet out of a longer quote by Mark Twain, which says, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did do. And it's so true. 20 years from now, we'll be more disappointed by the things we didn't do than by the things we did do. So whether it's starting the business, asking that question, having that hard conversation, whatever it is, in 20 years, we'll be more mad at the things we didn't do and things we did do. And I mean, even think 5-10 years ago, I'm more upset with myself over the things I didn't do than over the things I did do.
Definitely.
So when you're nervous, you're starting a business, you're worried about how it's going to go, it's like in 5 years, I will regret or in 20 years, I'll regret so much more having not done it than having done it and failed. 100%.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I think this has been extremely insightful. Just to wrap this up and close things off, how can people reach you if they're looking for a personal trainer in the area? What would be a good way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to us on social media. Our Instagram is @core.personal.fitness. You can search us on Facebook. You can reach me via email, corepersonalfitnessut@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Awesome. You also have a website, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep, we have a website, corepersonalfitnessonline.com.
Awesome.
Great.
Cool.
We'll be sure to put those links in the description of the video. Thank you so much for accepting to meet with us, Ryan. It's been a pleasure. We've definitely learned a lot from you, and I hope the listeners will be able to learn a lot as well.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.